Hey, how you guys doing? It's the producer from Brothers Comic. I am the producer that you were promised, y'all. We are here for our House of the Dragons recap. Uh, well, some of us happily, maybe some of us less happy. As we're going to recap the last 2 weeks episodes, episode 7 and 8. This will be part one of two as we'll go over episode 7 and then continue on into episode 8 on the line tonight. I got Grandmaster Beavis, man. What's going on, dude?
Don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, come on. There's a question coming up here, but before we get to that, it's Lady Dragonstone. Say what's happening.
Hey everybody.
Yeah. So she's got some book knowledge to drop for us tonight. Showed me something right out of the book that was on the screen for episode 8. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Okay. So, Grand Mason Beers, do you feel the show has gotten better though over the now 8 weeks of 10? Do you feel that it's gotten better?
So I actually enjoyed episode 8, which is probably the first time I've said that. But I can't say it's gotten better because I think a lot of things that I hate about it, just the fact that it's derivative of the show, the original series in a lot of ways. And I think there's still some of that in episode 8. The fact that they made this promise they couldn't live up to in terms of the depiction of violence in the show and things like that. And just the general the thinness of the writing and the general unlikability of all the characters. So
So that would be no.
yeah.
Uh, Lady Dragonstone, you have been the more positive person on this whole podcast, stating that you liked it from the beginning. Do you think it's gotten better as it's gone on?
Yes and no, because those first couple of episodes, because I really, really did like the younger actresses that they had playing Allison and Rhaenyra. I thought they were brilliant. I thought the young actress playing Rhaenyra was really, really, really good. And then changing the actors kind of was like, ugh, that's always a weird thing for me when they do that because I don't know if I'm gonna like how you're portraying the character. But I think that they're doing a really good job with that too. And I think just getting into the storyline, like those first 5 episodes were the setup, and then you're moving more toward the climax. And I sent you guys that thing that they're trying to get like 4 seasons of 10 episodes to properly tell their story, which I think is excessive. But you're just kind of getting it's boring, but at the same time, at least from my perspective, it's interesting because I know what's gonna happen. For people that don't know, it's kind of just like, when are we gonna get the really big dragon fights? I think is kind of more people's question.
I think the irony too is with the time jumps that they're trying to convey, like the very first season trying to lay the groundwork, but at the same time they're covering so much ground
Right.
because of the time they're covering. I think that sort of works
Yeah.
against what they're trying to do.
I feel like they could have done it in like more of a mini series format. Like they could have released the first 5 episodes all at once. You get that kind of plot and that story, and then you move out the two young actresses playing Rhaenyra and
Mm-hmm.
Allison, and then release the just next half of the show
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
with that, and then do a weekly episode thing where you have consistent storyline, consistent actors, and then just not keep changing it out because that's like. But I feel like if they did that, those first 5 episodes, they're interesting in some points, but boring in others.
That's a good point. Like so HBO Max adheres to the weekly release, but if you had the freedom of a different streaming platform to regulate how you rolled them out. So even if it was still episodic, you could depict it as here's the next chunk of the story.
Right.
That I think that could have worked a lot better.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna give kind of a reference to Disney Plus is what they kind of did with WandaVision. They released those first two really, really wacky episodes with the little bits at the end kind of saying that Wanda's Westview was her utopia that she was controlling. How she was just kind of editing out all of the stuff she didn't want to hear. And then episode 3 being a little more clarifying and then finally revealing all of the crap that's going on outside of Westview in episode 4. Like just having laid a groundwork and then added up onto the plot line instead of just dragging it out could have definitely helped just kind of helped it flow better.
My note in here actually says, with the news of 4 seasons and 10 episodes, it makes the pacing completely jacked up. We don't need to do all these damn time jumps. Like, if you're going to tell that story, you could have done it, whether you do it like that way, episodic, 5 week jumps, five here, change the actors, and you could have done that. But if you're telling me this is going to be 40 episodes of essentially covering, what is it, 172 years? Yo, you already just jumped
Well,
damn near 30 in the ones that we've seen, right?
it's not even that. It's kind of just, yeah, you've got about 30 years. I was like, there's 2, I don't remember, but like
It's
this is
a
just
lot.
the Dance of the Dragons. This is just a one period thing in Westeros history. They're kind of trying to pull from the thing a female lead so they can just kind of give a Daenerys kind of deja vu.
Mm.
But like I remember seeing this thing on Instagram that was like the producer, the showrunner, or someone a part of the show was like, House of the Dragon, once we're finished telling the story of the Dance of the Dragon, which is what this chapter is called, like we could go on to going back to Aegon, like the original Aegon the Conqueror and all of that. Like they, again, that book is chock full of a bunch of different stories that they just want to milk out.
There's no way they can go backwards after doing this. Like that would be the end for me for sure. Like, oh no, we're
Yeah,
gonna go
and
back
if
and tell Aegon's story now
they
too. You
wanted
know,
to do that, they should
oh
have started from the beginning.
yeah,
If they
uh,
wanted to do that, they should have started from the beginning and then went, because you could have started with Aegon's conquest and then built up to Rhaenyra, because this is called the Dance of the Dragons because, like, oh, I can't say that, but eventually, anyone who watched the original show or read the original book series knows that there weren't dragons again until Daenerys. She was the mother of dragons, and since dragons are the big thing they're kind of milking, going in this historical direction, you're not going to have a lot more of that left.
all right. Let's get into this then. Episode 7 is the drift mark. And I'm gonna kind of go through this one because we have a shot clock, and two, like I think just going it by like the major plot points as opposed to kind of seeing the scene kind of makes it a little bit better. Um, we open with the funeral of Princess Lena. Is that right? Is it Lena?
Yes.
Okay, Princess Lena, who committed dragoncide at the end of the last episode. And the Valerians put their people out to sea when they die, so they got her in her crypt and they put her out to sea. And then, we shift to the funeral. And my note says this: the funeral happenings. Lord Corlys is out there making sure that, like, hey, you're gonna be, he speaks to, was it Luke is the oldest one? You're going to be, the king, the prince of Driftmark. That's what's gonna happen. You are, a Valerian. That's what's going to happen. We get the googly eyes between uncle and niece. We'll leave that at that. And then we also get the reveal that Otto Hightower
Yeah.
is the hand of the king, after Lord Larys Strong killed his committed
He
family.
was all like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, in case you didn't know, it's right here.
Family.
We didn't change the actor at all. And then Prince Eleanor is distraught
Fratricide.
that he is his sister has died, and really tries to go out to sea and kill himself, I believe. And his boo, so Carl has to go out and save him. So he doesn't go out and kill himself in the ocean. All right. So the episode meanders back and forth, and we'll get to some of the plot points. The first one up being Princess Raina and Lord Corliss's loss of their daughter. And Lord Corliss doesn't give a fuck. That'd be fair because he doesn't, like, he's like, look, it's more important that the name lives on, and she's gone, but it's really more important that the name moves on. And once I'm gone, this little bastard essentially is going to become the Prince of Driftmark, and he's got my name. That's more important than anything else that's going on. Whereas
yeah.
that's not a great conversation for his wife, because she really calls him out. Like, you just don't care that we just lost our kid. And you put her in that situation that this was possibly going to happen. You got something, Grand Maester.
So that was the deal, right? They kept the Valerian name until they ascended the throne, but they
Yes.
could rule Driftmark as Valerians. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's why they gave it to Lucerys, as the eldest child. Jacaerys should have inherited it. He could have been Prince of Driftmark and King of the Seven Kingdoms, and then, but he wanted to keep the name. So when Jacaerys would have ascended the throne, he would have become a Targaryen. But he wanted the name, so that's why it went to Lucerys.
Okay.
Our second major plot point that came out of this, Prince Aemon steals Vagar the dragon, after their mom has died. He goes out there. He's always wanted a dragon. He somehow doesn't get burnt to a crisp and gets this dragon to ride it. And he does that. And he's like, yeah, I'm the dragon rider now. I don't know what you would drop to say that you're a dragon rider. And then we get a full on adolescent
A rock.
fight here, like of him punching girls, them kicking the shit out of him for a second, him hulking up, and and then we wind up, the youngest one was who was that? Luke winds up taking a knife and yanking his
Yep.
eye out, and cutting it straight out. Just a pretty not a vicious scene, but like kind of a wild scene there, Grand Maester. What's happening going with this?
Yeah, I mean, if I recall correctly, like Eamon was the odd kid out, right?
Yeah,
And
he's the
when
one
they
that
were
was
all teens. And
Mhm.
so now like he's going into the next episode where we see everyone's kind of ready to reconcile except for him. So
Except for
he's
him.
still upset about that period and
I think
not
he
having
has
a
a point.
dragon was
I
yeah.
think he has a point.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
but they also made like a point of him like not having a dragon and he, that was sort of defining for him
hmm
and so he got his, I guess, except it cost him.
Yes, a whole eye. And and at coming out of that, we'll get to the other part. He tells him, he's like, it's worth more than this eye. Like we just got this
Mm,
dragon for our
yeah.
family. An eye was an eye. We just got the largest dragon in the freaking of all the dragons. We got this one on our side now. So whatever. So yeah. So he gets his eye cut out, and then this leads to a confrontation, and I think this is the throne room. With all the kids pulling a my note said, you see, what had happened was he rode a dragon, and all of them lying on each other about who did what and all that. And the king seeks the truth. He asked Aemon first, and he's like, and then he goes to Aegon. He's like, about the rumor about, who told you this lie about them, being bastards. And Aegon's like, nigga, look, like, what's wrong with you? Can't you see it? Like, why? And they're like, why? I'm like, oh my God. I think Aegon's actually become my favorite character in this thing, by the way, because he's just awful. Um,
What? Oh my
he's
God.
awful. Yes. So, yeah. So
That's
everyone's
the
hinting at
He's
older
him.
like
one.
Yes, the older one.
baby
He's awful.
Joffrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just awful, but, why not? Okay, so my note
Baby
in here
Joffrey.
says, why do y'all think Viserys is choosing to ignore this with something that's just so visibly obvious? Why is he choosing to ignore this? What are y'all's thoughts?
What's the value of acknowledging it? What
That's fair.
what does he gain by acknowledging it?
The only thing he would gain really by acknowledging it would be putting Aegon on the throne, because even though Rhaenyra is a true blood Targaryen, if her heirs are illegitimate, it weakens her claim, even though she eventually does end up having kids with Daemon, who could have ascended. But probably if, oh, these are the legitimate kids and these are the illegitimate kids, then those kids would have ended up fighting each other instead of the other ones fighting each other. Like, if he acknowledged the fact that those kids were illegitimate, it could have led to some really, really bad crap, which by him just kind of ignoring it also led to really, really bad crap. And that also just kind of goes to point out the double standard. Like, if Prince Aegon had had a bunch of bastard kids that he wanted legitimized and he could put him on the throne because he was a dude and he was allowed to have illegitimate kids, he could have done it, but Rhaenyra can't.
Yeah, and even though when Viserys made her the heir, it seemed like expedience, and you kind of had the feeling that it would be undone at a moment of convenience. But for as much as he's just kind of been weak in a lot of regards, this is kind of the one thing they've depicted him
Yeah,
as sticking with. Like he is insistent that she is her heir, and I think that's what it comes down to is like his and it probably also tied into the prince who was
peace.
promised that we know we're not going to get, that he's associated with her. So I think I mean, this is like the one stand he was willing to make. It's the way I see it.
He wants to keep the peace for sure. He is the king of
Hmm.
peace, and he can't keep peace in his own family. And I think that
Hmm.
part has gotten to him. Like, I can rule the kingdom in peace, but I can't rule this freaking castle and bedroom here in peace. And this blows up in his face completely. And this is where, and I said to Lady Dragonstone, we've been watching it, like, this is the problem because he never squashed it and it just kept going and
Yeah.
going. As the king, he should have been able to squash it, maybe have to take some people out or do whatever to them, and he doesn't. And his wife completely cucks him here. He's like, you know what? That was your son. He had his eye cut out. Like, you need to do something about it. He's like, no, we're good. Go to bed. We're fine here. And she's like, nah, son, like that ain't gonna be it. And she's like, Sir Kristen, go take that little nigga's eye. Like, I want his eye. It's an eye for an eye situation. And Sir Kristen was gonna do it. And like the lead freaking dude of the Gold Cloaks, he didn't even try to stop him. Like he was just kind of like looking at him. Like why wouldn't the leader of the Gold Cloaks even stop him from even considering doing that?
Well, Kristen didn't do it. He said
He
like he's like
tried
I'm
though.
gonna. He didn't. No, he didn't. He went and he said like I'm sworn to you, Your
Yeah.
Grace, but I'm not gonna go essentially and take out a little
Oh, I
kid's
thought that's
eye.
what it meant. Like he was
Yeah,
sworn to her that
No.
he would do it.
he said, "I'm your sworn protector,"
I'm
which
not your
means
sworn.
I
Go stab
protect
little kids.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
I'm not your sworn. I'm not
assassin.
your spirit of vengeance to go put the penance there on people. Yeah,
But
but this was one of this part was annoying to me because this was just a rehash of Cersei
yeah.
and the wolves,
Mhm.
except Robert,
That's what I said.
Viserys didn't cave.
Yeah.
And this is just one of the things that perpetually bothers me about this show is it's
There's no
it's a
originality.
rehash.
Right.
Yeah. And then yeah, we get a little bit of this again because we're all mother, we're both mothers here. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
the Cersei and I can't even remember her name, Mama Stark.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Caitlyn?
Like, yeah, Caitlyn, this is just Cersei and Caitlyn. We're mothers, we can have that in common, whatever. It just it just always comes off as derivative to me.
Yeah. Listens Allison into an absolute rage when her husband doesn't decide to do something. So she grabs his Valyrian steel dagger and heads towards the kid, and Rhaenyra gets in front of her and stops her. And it's basically like, look, now everybody gets to see who you are now. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And her speech is basically, I've been screwing this old man for all these years. You've been getting all this foreign dick. I'm really upset by this. This is a problem. And, she, tries to do it, and everybody sees her, kind of lose it like that. And, which I thought was actually kind of,
I liked it.
well, no, the fact that we don't get a chance to see that switch. It's 0 to 60. It's this dutiful person for the most part, following the orders or whatever. Yeah, now of course her kid has gotten into trouble or whatever, and like every parent, is going to defend their kid, but we don't really get a chance to see that slow build. It was just, hey, this happened.
Yeah, I think Allison was done a disservice in the character switch because I think you can draw a more clear line between Rhaenyra's characters in the two depictions.
Yeah.
Where Allison, basically the last scene we get is this laboriously explained scene where green means war.
Yeah.
And then we get the new character who's apparently at war and is completely different, and you don't have the same kind of through line.
Yeah.
And so I think Allison is not as good in the second half because I don't think they did as good a job of connecting it to this person who was they were best friends and they had a relationship, and she was reluctantly put in this role, and it's not the same character we're seeing here, and we didn't get to see that fall.
I agree, and I think the reason you don't get to see it is because of the freaking 10-year time jump. Like it's portrayed in the books because you don't get that time jump. You get to see the history of when Rhaenyra gets married, of when she has the first kid, and the suspicion starts arising because he looks too much like Harwin Strong. You get to see all of that build up and spying and all of that kind of stuff. You get to see that in the books. It's not really as interesting as the stuff that they are portraying, but you do get to see it. So you get to kind of see her downward spiral in that kind of jealousy and resentment that she holds for Rhaenyra. And I really did like the speech where she came out with the knife. I thought that was brilliantly acted on both sides. That was really, really, really good. And what I kind of thought was like what she said, I think was like where is duty, where is honor, where is sacrifice? I gave up my like girlhood dreams of marrying this like super Kristen Cole original whatever thing in my head because I had to marry this really old dad. Yeah. And like I have given up everything. I've given up my sanity, my body, I've sacrificed everything, and yet you get to run around rampant and free. She's jealous of her, and she's jealous that she's getting away with it.
Okay. Yes, sorry. Going to the next scene. I called it.
There's another sequence where they keep throwing this dagger in her face. Like, in case you didn't know it, this is the dagger that was used on Bran. Yeah. And I swear there's one scene where they show it like silhouetted against the firelight. And it's got like a rounded tip. I'm like, I think y'all used the wrong prop for that scene.
They ended the show, episode 8 on the dagger. I this one I call is there a DFACS, the Department of Children and Families in Westeros. So while the kids are in there fighting, freaking Damon and Rhaenyra are consummating their freaking incestuous relationship out on the beach. And all the while this is going on where these kids are getting their eyes cut
Like,
out.
they were
So
on the beach.
somebody needed to call children's services. So Damon's over his issues of being able to get it up and finish because he's with his niece. That's fun. All right. The next scene, the marriage. Yeah. Okay. All right. So they know they can't get married if Prince Lenore is still alive. So they hatch this. It's a ruse. I mean, we're kind of going over it here. It's a ruse that they are going to, get married, and then they have to set up this plot where Prince Lenore has to die because they can't get married if he's still alive. And so they go through this thing. It looks like Sir Carl's getting all this money from Damon. He's got his Jedi hoodie up when he goes out and visiting, telling like, hey, you're a knight with no land. There's places that you can leave to go to, where that doesn't have to be. And he gives him his money. And then you see, you know, Sir Carl is in the throne room in Driftwood, and these two get in a fight. But especially if you're watching it only one time, there's an intercut scene where you see Damon just go in and choke some black dude from behind, and make him tap out. And it was like the first time I watched it, I was like, what? I didn't get
Yeah.
it. And I guess that goes back to the internet thing about this show. The show is shot so fucking dark. When people
Oh yeah,
complaining about it, yeah, this one's super
this
dark.
episode in particular jumped out. I
Yes,
was like, here
is
we go.
yeah, here we go. Yeah, and again, if you watched the last season, that thing was lit with a 2 watt light bulb. It's
Birthday
awful.
candles
Yeah,
for a
it's just
4-year-old's
really
birthday.
bad. Man, it was really, really bad. So this one had some of those same things. So the lighting doesn't help. So that drag off that dude, Lenore shows up to the throne room. Why are you in here? Whatever. They start to have this battle. The freaking piss boy goes and runs to get the troops, and then by the time they come back, they pull a body out of the fire pit. Prince Rainy, is that his name?
Rainy,
Rhaenys is all
Rainy.
upset because she's lost her other child, which would be her last child, actually, I guess. And it's like, oh no, oh my god, and and that's it. And Lord Corlys is upset, like, what the hell happened? How did this happen? Well, jumping to the end of the episode, he really didn't die. They just kind of, fooled everybody. He shaved off his Barack Obama dreads, and him and Sir Carl sailed off into the sea. Now, I did read somewhere that in the book, Sir Carl did kill that ass. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
he did.
No, I'm that's
It's
what I'm saying. Like
pretty,
I'm
yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, you're 100% right. How it's kind of
Mhm.
portrayed in the books is like they got over some disagreement, or he saw him flirting with somebody else, or something. We don't really know what it was. And then
man.
knives and daggers were drawn, and death to Sir Laenor. The one thing I don't really recall is the fact that he's alive. I don't remember reading that at all. I mean, the plot that the rumor was like, oh, maybe Damon hired him so he could marry Rhaenyra. That was a rumor in the thing, but they're just taking rumors and making them facts here because then again, it's just a historical recounting and it's not told in a first person narrative by the characters that are in there or in a third person narrative of a narrator that knows everything. So
But I think they're trying to sidestep another instance of violence against gay people. And I think there's some subtlety to the way the story was told where it wasn't immediately obvious, but you're right. The random choke out was kind of the cue. There was not a second after they pulled the guy out of the fire and he's obviously disfigured and his hair is burned off. And then you see another cloaked figure without boots because they like showed his boots and his no hair. I'm like, that's Laenor. Like there was just this mix of like, we're going to be subtle in the story, but we're still going to give you these obvious cues.
Right.
But yeah, the part you didn't talk about too was like Laenor kind of had his come to Jesus in a bit where he's like, look, I did you wrong.
Yeah.
And our lives would have been so much easier if we had just taken care of business and then gone on to do whatever we wanted. We skipped that first step, but I'm with it now.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that perhaps in the absence of that conversation, maybe it would have been a stronger effort to get Carl to just kill him, which I'm sure then Carl would have got killed somewhere down the road. But maybe if you want to give them credit for more subtle storytelling, you say, okay, that conversation impacted Rhaenyra, and then this was the smart way out, and he gets to go. really, it wasn't just he wanted to do what it was. I think you have to believe that Laenor kind of wanted a release from all this anyway. Like
Yeah.
I think he just kind of did want to go do
Yeah.
his thing.
Yeah.
So it was an odd part of the story. It was clunky in parts, clever in parts, but yeah, it was. As soon as they were like, oh, it burned off all his hair, and then you see him without his bad wig and no boots. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever.
They also, while this is going on, there's a voiceover going on with Rhaenyra saying, everybody's going to hate us for this once hey, the shot clock up. Everybody's going to hate us for this, that, we're going to be kind of outcast based on whatever happens. Everybody's going to blame us for his death, all of those types of things. But intercut with that, we get the Valerian wedding here. Or not Valerian, the Targaryen wedding here, where they get married in blood. They're cutting hands. They got blood on the lips, blood on the heads.
That's just
they're
unsanitary.
Yeah,
So culty.
yeah, speaking, their little dragon language, as Grandmaster Beavis has called it. But I had said this to Lady Dragonstone because I'd heard this on a story somewhere. Did you know that you could go and learn High Valerian? Like
I'm sure you can.
Oh no,
Duolingo.
on Duolingo, that app that you can learn
Yeah,
languages.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, you can learn High Valerian on there. And the story that I saw on the internet, now, I mean, everything is true on there according to Abe Lincoln, that some lady was like, required people in her wedding party to learn some High Valerian for their Game of Thrones wedding, and I was just like, oh, yeah,
that's messed up.
Nope. They must have been. Were those Valerians in that wedding?
Yeah,
Were they people of color?
Yeah.
Was she marrying her uncle?
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in episode 8 here, very, very soon. And so yeah, so that's the ruse, and that's it. Him and Sir Carl get to go boo and do their thing on Fire Island or wherever they went, and that was the end of. That was episode 7. Thoughts? Wins the week.
You told me this was good.
Oh, come on.
I think, and I watched it. And I'm like, this was the How to Train Your House of Dragon or House of How to Train Your Dragon was episode 7.
This is a pull a cornet. It's the tallest midget. Okay, like you know what I'm saying? Like this is like it's better than the other ones. And I think again, like I said at the beginning, it's a progressive situation that it's actually gotten better over time. That's what I think, over from the previous episode. So who wins the week?
I agree.
I'm going with Prince Laenor because he got to go be with his boo.
Away
from all that, and he gets to go and live his life in there. But ain't no book; it's just a show.
But in the sense of like Laenor getting to go and be free, but in the sense of who's winning the game right now, I just gotta go with my guy. I gotta say Daemon again.
God.
He got to marry her. He got to consolidate his own power and get to say, "Hey, I may not be able to be king on sitting on that chair, but I get to be standing beside the lady that's sitting in that chair."
Yeah.
And I'll just throw out a canon. Aemon did get the biggest dragon in the yard, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, exactly.
I hate that child.
Yeah, it gets worse when you get to the next one. I got a couple of outer notes here. There's a moment, and we saw it the second time we were watching it, that the King Viserys calls Alicent his wife's name.
Yeah. You guys watch this twice?
Yeah, I gotta watch it twice. Well, I had to watch it on my own to see if it was okay for her to watch it.
He watched it on his own, and then I watched it.
I can.
We watched it backwards. We watched 8 and then 7.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he calls her by her own name. Let's see. Oh yeah, like this idea that like man, Otto's to his Alicent's like, you stone cold killer now. I didn't think you had it.
Yeah,
like, that was like such a weird scene.
He was so like, proud.
I've been waiting for you to shank a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and then my other note here, and this will come up for the next episode as well. Aegon is just a drunken. He doesn't care. Like he. Hey, you want to be king? I could care fucking less.
Yeah.
He does not want that whether it be the responsibility or he's just perfectly fine doing whatever. He does not want to be king at all, and he's doing everything humanly possible to not make that happen, which is making me one of my favorite characters.
He's kind of like can't even remember his name now anymore.
Describe.
Too many names.
I'll see if I can get it.
Too many names in this freaking show.
Peter Dinklage's character from the main series.
Oh my god, Tyrion?
Yeah, he's kind of like Tyrion. Like
Yeah.
he's like, I don't care. I ain't
Oh
never
my
getting power.
god, that's awful.
I've
That's like my
I've
favorite
expunged
character.
this show in this whole
Yeah,
thing
I
from
mean,
my
Not
mind.
yeah, yeah,
Tyrion though.
yeah.
He's the
And when and if
best.
you ever watch season 8 or whatever the last one was, you will definitely know that, man, we almost had it all and then it ended. So, anywho, okay. All right, so that's gonna be the end of episode 7. We're gonna come right back with episode 8. So it's in 2 parts. So part 1 is episode 7, part 2 is episode 8. So come back if you're ready to get ready to listen about a recap for one of the last 3 episodes of this particular show. As a producer, I'm signing off. Lady Dragon Soul sign off.
Adios, everyone. I'm gonna look up how to say goodbye in High Valyrian for the next
Please,
one.
please don't.
You're gonna get put on,
I'm going
you're
to.
gonna get put on punishment. All right, go ahead and sign off, Graham.
See you here shortly.
All right, bye everybody.